Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another movie review. This time we're going to be talking about The Salvation, which came out back in 2014. And it's a Danish Western film starring Mads Mikkelsen, Eva Green, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So I actually already have it. I bought it. Actually, I bought this while I was down in Arkansas visiting my brother quite a while ago now. But, I hadn't actually seen it yet, but I just had so much faith in the cast, and the trailer for it looked really good, so I didn't see a reason not to just have enough faith in it to buy it right away. And I finally got around to watching it last night. I put it off for a while for some reason. There's quite a few movies I need to catch up on, watch, and review, like Armistice, The Final Girls, and stuff like that, but that'll be coming a little bit later. I don't know why I put it off for so long, but overall I thought it was overall a pretty good movie. I'm not huge on westerns or anything like that. My dad is a big fan of the old TV shows like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Cheyenne, different things like that, and of course like old western movies with Audie Murphy, Jimmy Stewart, people like that. So I've seen my share of older stuff like that for sure. And in a way, I do have a likeness for it as well, but not as much as he does. My favorite Western movie I've seen, though, is actually probably 3:10 to Yuma with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. I may watch and review that one at some point, maybe. But what attracted me to this was actually the cast, obviously, because you have Hannibal Lecter in there, first off. Then you have Vanessa Ives, Eva Green, and then you have Negan himself from The Walking Dead right now. So the cast is really just stacked in this one, I think. And for another Game of Thrones tie-in, the Undertaker in this one is played by the High Sparrow from Game of Thrones, which I thought was pretty funny. And that's probably the best part of the movie is the cast and the performances. The story itself, we'll talk more about the characters and stuff in a few minutes, but the story itself is pretty simple. Mads Mikkelsen's character, he's a ex-Danish soldier, and he's sort of been making money for his family, finally reuniting with them after the war, all things he's seen and such, with his brother, and he's finally able to reunite with them in this town. But when he does, they're on the stagecoach, and these two guys from some kind of gang just happen to get on it, and they end up trying to basically molest his wife and rape her. He stops on it first, but he ends up getting pushed out of the stagecoach, and then once he eventually does catch up to him, he finds his son dead, shot in the head and just left on the road. And then he also finds his wife, that she had been raped and unfortunately killed as well. And so some very dark stuff, and Mads Mikkelsen's character John, he just mows him down with his rifle, just shot after shot, and you totally understand that reaction, of course. And this basically ignites a whole feud from the other side of things with Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, Delarue, and he's the leader of this gang. And not only that, but the main guy who Mads Mikkelsen had to go after to avenge his family was actually his brother as well. And he was played by the brother, the main guy, who, let me see. Let's see. Okay, I can't find the actor's name right now for some reason. Okay, yeah, Michael Raymond-James. He played Jeffrey Dean Morgan's brother in the movie, the one who caused all this shit in the beginning. Some people will recognize him from True Blood. He was in season 2 of The Walking Dead, and he's done quite a lot of other stuff. So this basically causes Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character to basically take this town that he already had in his grip and just put him on even higher ropes. Basically he was already running this town basically through criminal means, and now he's basically gonna kill a couple citizens until he can find the killer of his brother. And then he's also raising his fees for the gang's protection and such. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan does a good job in this movie. He's a very talented actor. I still think he was a great choice for Negan. Mads Mikkelsen and Eva Green were actually the highlights for me in this one, acting wise. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is good, but I feel like Eva Green and Mads Mikkelsen just got a little bit more concentration for him. Then again, I could be wrong. Eva Green's character is an interesting discussion, though. We'll talk about her in a couple minutes. But that's basically the premise of the movie. And because of this, John, or Mads Mikkelsen, is eventually brought in, then he's held, and then eventually his brother ends up freeing him, and they basically try and get back at the Jeffrey Dean Morgan and the rest of them and free the town. And the High Sparrow, who plays the Undertaker, or not the Undertaker so much, she's also the mayor, but he was working as Undertaker, which is weird. But anyway, Jonathan Pryce, he ends up sort of betraying John a little bit as well, and John ends up sending him back to Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character in a coffin with a bullet in his head. So that's kind of fun. And I also liked John's brother in this movie, played by Mikael Persbrandt. Originally, they were actually going to have Mads Mikkelsen's real-life brother play his brother in the movie. I don't know why they didn't really work out. I don't know if he didn't have time for it, or he couldn't do it for some reason, but apparently this guy was like Mads Mikkelsen's second choice, personally, so I think that's pretty cool, and I think he did a pretty good job. You could tell both John and Peter, Peter being Mads Mikkelsen's brother, are both very damaged. And I think they both played off of that really well, just very cold, and they have been through their share of things for sure, as well as Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We get a little bit of background on Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character. We hear some brief conversations about it, how he used to be a good man, how he wasn't like this before, but his experiences with fighting off the Indians supposedly turned him into a little more of a savage, a little bit more of a cruel person. With any war that can happen, so I like that part of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, but I wish there had been a little bit more character concentration, a little bit more character development, because there are definitely interesting characters played by some great actors, but I do wish we had a little more time to see them develop, and I wish more had happened with Delarue, Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the movie. But, there were definitely some pieces there. And it is an independent film, so a lot of times with these, you don't always get, all these answers and such. But, still pretty good overall. It definitely had a lot of things that could work for it, for sure. And then Eva Green's character, Madelaine. Apparently she was married to Michael Raymond-James' character, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's brother in the movie. And at first you think she's a part of their whole operation and such, which she sort of is, but then of course it becomes pretty obvious that she is, she's been abused for quite a long time, and they probably had actually grabbed her when they had raided or assaulted a certain Native American village or something like that. You get the sense that Madelaine has had connections to that, and she's been held against her will for quite some time. And eventually, she does, of course, end up turning on Delarue and the rest of them, helping out John towards the end, which is awesome. And she seems to be a pretty good shot herself. She seems to be pretty intelligent as well, which is perfect for Eva Green. Sometimes I still say Eva Green, even though I know the pronunciation is different. But I really admired Eva Green's performance in this one. Of course, I love her on Penny Dreadful. You guys know how much I loved Penny Dreadful. She's just such a fantastic actress. She deserves so much more credit than she gets. She's very overlooked, unfortunately. I think she deserved all the Emmys in the world for her role as Vanessa on Penny Dreadful. And I really admired her in this role. Her performance in this was very different, though. She actually had no speaking lines, no dialogue whatsoever. She was actually a mute character, which I found to be pretty interesting. And it would kind of make sense, considering what she's been through, that could eventually happen to someone where they just don't want to talk or can't talk anymore. So I found that to be really complimentary to how great Eva Green is as an actress, because you can see this quiet strength in her and sort of this damaged, unspoken thing that, you know, is inside her. You can see it, and Eva Green's facial expressions just really show it all, and she's really good with her eyes and just stoic stature and such. I thought Eva Green did a phenomenal job in this movie. I can't praise her enough. And you know, John, or Mads Mikkelsen's brother in the movie, he ends up being captured and killed. He ends up being dragged around the desert, actually, and back into town, which is pretty brutal. And of course, the movie ends in a shootout. I do like how John set it up. You know, he had this kid from a store help him and sort of, you know, light these fires to distract him and lure Delarue's mind to certain areas. Mads Mikkelsen is hiding under one of the little buildings and then picking him off, which I thought was pretty cool. And Delarue actually manages to injure John, but that's when Eva Green or Madelaine, you know, she comes in, actually ends up being the one to subdue Delarue, which was of course very fitting. And then we have, you know, John shoot him in that at the end. And then it seems like John and Madelaine actually go off together. They seem to have this quiet sort of respect and understanding of each other, which I thought was communicated pretty well, but very subtly. Subtly, I should say. And that's another thing about this movie. You know, the acting is great, but it's all very subtle. You know, it's all very like quiet and sort of like laid back. But yeah, there's just so much about it without seeing as much as other movies would put out. You know, it's not like in your face. But they all had this great, you know, like subtle acting about all of them in this movie, I think. And, you know, you don't know if Madelaine and John are going to form a relationship or anything like that. I'm sure, like, maybe, but it would take a long time for both of them. But I just thought it was interesting with the almost unspoken bond they ended up having at the end. And I like when Mads Mikkelsen shoots one of the guys off of Eva Green, and you know, she just sort of like goes with the guy falling off of her, and she spins in a really cool way. I thought that was awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the plot of the movie. Like I said, the acting's great in the movie. You know, a lot of great performances. You know, really subtle yet really strong, you know, showings from each actor, I think. And the characters, you know, were definitely interesting, but I had wished that there were a little bit more focus on that, a little bit more development with characters like Delarue, you know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. But overall, it was a pretty good one. It wasn't great, but it's definitely worth seeing, and it might be impressive for a Western movie nowadays. I think it's one of the best I've seen for sure. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this movie. I also wish there, you know, some of the shootings, once in a while, they felt a little bit off for some reason. As far as I know, practical effects were used, which was good. But sometimes some of the shots were like strangely like not focused on the bullet actually hitting. We didn't always see like, I don't know, we don't always see blood or something, which is kind of weird sometimes. But you know, the action in some of the shootings and the cinematography, there's some great, beautiful shots in this movie as well. And I sort of like the gritty sort of just dark yet sunny look of the movie, the coloring and such. I thought was pretty interesting too. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry if I got repetitive with some of it, but let me know what you guys thought about the movie if you've seen it. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and theFranceBlooded.com. Catch you guys next time, and peace.